Yes, it has been quite a while since we've done one of these, but welcome back to Tom's Honest Review of Epic Universe. We have already talked about the center of the park being Celestial Park. We have talked about Super Nintendo World, and we have talked about the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic, and now our journey will take us to How to Train Your Dragon, the Isle of Berk. Of course, this is based on the How to Train Your Dragon up till a certain point animated film series, now also a live action film series. Of course, there's been shows and other things as well. It is a franchise, a multimedia franchise at this point. But needless to say, I think when we started UPNT, I was amazed anytime new merchandise came out featuring Toothless or any of the other characters from the franchise. I was amazed at the traction it would get. And that, to me, said, oh, wow, yeah, people really love this franchise, and this is begging to be something in a theme park. Now, several years ago, Universal realized that, and they realized that potential in a show which they built for the grand opening of Universal Beijing, the Untrainable Dragon show, which will be in this review because it's now been imported to Epic Universe in the United States. But it's been a long road. I mean, 2025 is a long time removed from when these movies were in their prime. Although, again, live action movie did very, very well. So it took a long time to get here. And it's crazy considering that how many years earlier Beijing opened, that we still had to wait so many more years for this show to come here. Of course, I've talked about the Epic Universe story before in that Universal had a lot of really good ideas for projects, and those are ideas that I think would have really enhanced Universal Studios Florida and Islands of Adventure and would have worked better as expansions to those, but they decided, well, we've got enough maybe for a theme park. And that was, well, let's not build Super Nintendo World or the Ministry of Magic ride in USF, let's build those over here. How to Train Your Dragon, maybe hold on to that, that's a really great franchise, we'll do that over there too. And so, it's long overdue, and it's not only a Universal problem; it's a Disney problem too. Sometimes, look at Frozen. Frozen gets its first real ride-through attraction, but it's in the end. I mean, it's an overlay of an existing ride, Maelstrom. That's 2016. What is that? 3 years after Frozen came out in theaters. But look at things now. In order to build fully fledged immersive worlds from that movie, World of Frozen, the first one opened November of 2023 in Hong Kong. We now have got the second one opening in the spring of 2026 in Paris. So it does take some time to design and build and create these things. But either way, we finally have Berk, the Isle of Berk in real life. So the portal, you step through the portal, and this is, I think, other than Nintendo, the best reveal of the four portals. I think Nintendo's hard to beat. And even Nintendo, honestly with Nintendo, I don't even know that I call that the portal reveal, because you go through the portal and then in the pipe and then you got to go upstairs and then you come out the castle. There's a ways to go. And in the traditional sense of these grand reveals, you think about the train station at the Disney parks, you come out and the big reveal of Main Street and you turn the corner and the castle's there. Berk is more in the traditional sense. You go through the tunnel and around, same thing, you go around like you do a little turn around a stone and there's just this giant reveal. So I think maybe really because there's less travel time between entering the portal and coming through, it might honestly be better accomplished than the Nintendo one, if we're being honest. But it is super impressive. These large statues with flames coming out of the mouth, the giant rock work, the village, all the moving elements of the dragon figures that are in their little cottages, nests, houses, whatever you want to call them. It's a grand reveal. It's one of the grandest, I think, at any theme park in the world. It's very, very well done. The problem with Isle of Berk is when you turn left or right. That's the problem. This land has the most missed potential, this portal, this world, whatever you want to call it, the most missed potential of this entire project. It's clear where the money was ripped out of Epic Universe, and it couldn't be clearer that it was Isle of Berk. You go to the left, and you see Stardust Racers, and the sight lines are horrendous. down the entire left side. On the right side, they're better for a little bit, but then you have that, there's a gate and a look through to Celestial Park, and it's not great either. It's a disaster. Like, clearly, that's where the money in this land ran out. That being said, like, look, all the other lands have a major e-ticket attraction that is a showstopper. In the case of this land, that showstopper is meant to be, I believe, the show. It's meant to be the Untrainable Dragon. The other rides feel a bit carnival-y. They're a little bit Six Flags or Cedar Point-ish in nature, if I'm being honest. Now, as far as like theming a queue and ride vehicles and stuff like that, it is a notch above Six Flags or Cedar Point. But it's not even what I expect from Universal as far as a themed roller coaster. And I said this for Stardust. I love Stardust Racers, but man, like once you pass that rock work in the front and that reveal, there's really not a whole lot to look at, and it really does not differentiate itself from a coaster park at all. And there are moments in Berk where they don't either, for the most part. The sight lines from, we'll get into, as we get into individual attractions, we'll get more into the sight lines. But why I'm so disappointed with that is the village is immaculate. When you walk around, so they have that great reveal, and then you come around either side into the village where Mead Hall is and how to treat your dragon, and the entrance to the coaster and Fyre Drill and those things. There's this beautiful fountain, there's interactive, there's these wonderful interactive elements. There's one where you turn a crank and the little Viking guy blows into the horn and there's fun sound effects. There's one where you get to flap Toothless's wings on a statue of him, or I guess a puppet of him, more likely. There's a game that multiple guests can play where you fight to make it to the top of a tower. These are great elements. And then the village itself is perfect. It looks like the movie has come to life. Inside that village, the interiors are spectacular. They're breathtaking. The inside of Mead Hall you'll never forget that. It's the real thing from the movie. It's very impressive. The chocolate store is super charming. There's painted murals, hand-painted murals, and just wonderful fixtures. It's very, very well done. You have Gobber's sort of workstation there where there's animated dragons and there's a fire effect and things are moving and that's all wonderful. And then it's really brought to life by the entertainment. Where this land most shines is the entertainment. Those characters from the film walking around, interacting with you, and they have sort of streetmosphere level of freedom where you'll see characters like get into the queues or in Gobber's case, he kind of hangs out in that one area, but the others, Rough Nut and Tough Nut, they roam, they go down to their attraction, like loading areas sometimes. They have a freedom to do things that makes the world feel real. And I love that. It's great. Now, obviously, some characters are too popular and you have to leave some of them over in a formal meet and greet, the Toothless meet and greet. You can't have those characters out and about, and some of the dragon characters out and about. They'll be mobbed. But it's very cool that you could have these others roaming to make the land feel alive. It's what Galaxy's Edge should have had and is missing. It was promised us, and we didn't get it. It's nice to see Universal carry that out. But the village is wonderful, and so that's what's so frustrating about the rest of the land having terrible sight lines, is that you built something wonderful and you didn't let it reach its full potential. It makes me very angry. This could have been one of the best theme park lands ever built anywhere, and you cut it short. You took the legs out from under it. Either way. We're not going to, as said before in these honest reviews of the full portal, we're not going to talk about dining because we have reviews of nearly every single restaurant available for you right here on the channel. Mead Hall and all the other restaurants in this land, you could check out those videos. They're exhaustive and they include a little tour of the space as well. But I will say again, they're great spaces. And I do like, I will say Spitfire Grill, it's not, it's essentially some service windows and a covered seating area, but the covered seating area overlooks Fyre Drill, which has great kinetic energy. So I like that very much. Not everything has to be an interior. I think it works well. Mead Hall, though, is an accomplishment. Really love that. And the food and drink were good, too. So on top of that, not only a great place to have a seat and enjoy a meal, or not only a great place to sit and enjoy an atmosphere, but also a great place to enjoy a meal. Real quick, I want to mention merchandise-wise, I think they killed it. I can't imagine there is a single item you could want as a How to Train Your Dragon fan that they didn't make. There's so many SKU numbers. There's so many different products available, and it's all of such a great quality. They did a tremendous job on that front as well. But let's talk about the attraction. I want to start with the Untrainable Dragon. That again was designed for Universal Beijing. It was a great hit, and obviously it was a no-brainer to put it as the e-ticket, the main draw, the main focus of this particular land. When we get down to sightline problems, though, man, that theater building is hideous. Hideous. This is a movie filled with rock work and trees and, you know, a whole village, and we couldn't hide this building. There was no answer. There was no artistic solution to not see a building with a mural painted on it. This is my same problem. Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure is a tremendous attraction that is really hurt by some sightline issues, and one of those being a building they just painted trees onto. That's very obviously that. Doesn't blend into the background. And I know people keep saying, oh, you got to give time for the trees to grow in. We could wait 250 years. These trees are not going to cover this building. It's visible from many places in the land. It's, you know, on your approach, it's not awe-inspiring. It just feels like you're not in another world. I am very clearly going into a giant theater building to watch a stage show. There's no immersive nature to this approach whatsoever. Thankfully, what's inside is one of the best short-form character shows at any theme park ever. A very nice job. Musically, it could be stronger. The original music it's memorable, but I don't know, lyrically, it's kind of mediocre. But it's live singing. I'm always going to be a fan of live singing. Live performance, always a plus, and it should be standard in 2025 in multi-billion-dollar corporation theme parks. It should be standard. We have the money to afford this. Please continue to do this. Everyone in the show is super talented. Choreography's good. The one thing I will say is, look, when you are in show development, you're writing a show and you speak English. English is your first language, and you're a show writer. And you write a show, and you're told you have to write a show that could easily be translated into Mandarin or the like, so that the Chinese audience will understand what's going on. It has to translate well, so we could get this show translated for the audience we're making the show for. And so that's what happened in the 2010s when they're designing the Beijing park. They write the show, put it together. Technically, a masterpiece. They're huge moving set pieces. The dragons that are those with, you know, human performers inside are incredible. The flying, this is not news to anyone at this point, but the flying toothless is one of those moments in a theme park production you will never forget. That is a magical moment that will stay with people forever. It is wonderfully accomplished. It's great technical feat. But the show writing is not great. And I'm not going to knock them because, hey, I get it. You had to write it so it could translate into a language and be easily understandable to the guest at that park. What I don't understand is when we're translating it back, it starts in English and then it's in Mandarin, and then we're translating it back to English to put it in Epic Universe. So what comes back out in English is a very, very dumbed down script. Why do we not take the opportunity? This is a multi-billion-dollar investment, this park. There's a lot of time between development and grand opening. No one could sit down and like embellish this script at all. No one could sit down and be like, hey, maybe it's a little Saturday morning cartoon. Maybe it's a bit much to every 2 minutes be like, that dragon's untrainable. It can't be trained. Didn't you tell me every dragon was trainable? But maybe not this one. Oh, you're right. Every dragon can be trained. But come on, guys. Come on. It's pandering. And I know someone will go in the comments and be like, it's a show for children. these are not just shows for children. The things at these multi-billion-dollar theme parks are supposed to be enjoyable for everyone. And it is not a new art creating a theme park show that is aimed at a younger audience but can entertain and wow people of any age. That is not something that's never been done before. It's been done many, many times, and it could have been done here. It's just such a bad script. It's really, really poor. Look, it is, it's just not good. It just still, it feels really hokey and corny for 20 minutes. My other problem is the length, and this is not exclusive to Universal either. There's a Disney problem too with both the Little Mermaid show and the Villain show at Hollywood Studios. Is we don't know how to make shows longer than 19 minutes anymore. No one wants to, everyone thinks a person could not possibly sit in a theater for more than 20 minutes for a show. What's funny about Untrainable Dragon is truly, though, they're really stretching to get to that 19 minutes. There's a whole like flashback portion, and I get it. The point of the flashback portion is it's like, oh, we're trying to, Hiccup needs to understand that he's done this before. He's trained untrainable dragons before. Remember that time you trained that dragon? And remember the time you trained this dragon? Well, let's flash back to one of those. And it's a nice little sequence, but like the stunt performers are very good, but I don't know that it really adds anything to the show. I think we established this great moment where Astrid like encourages him to figure it out. Just the pages flipping and seeing those scenes is enough. We didn't need a scene showing him doing it. It doesn't really add to the show, but that's a good 4 or 5 minutes of the program. So really you're looking at 15 minutes of telling the actual story that's on display here of this untrainable dragon. I will say at least the technical wizardry and the quality of performance, thankfully, save the mediocre script. And altogether, it's obviously a huge hit, as it should be. It's a very good show, super enjoyable, love it. But script and show building could be a lot better, I will say. Out in the land, I mentioned the walk around characters, but also these animatronic dragon parts. Like there's a tail in one place, sometimes there's a head. There's I'm not the biggest How to Train Your Dragon fan. I've seen all the movies, but I don't know the names of every dragon. I apologize. But the ice dragon that's over by the counter service that blows a blast of a smoky cold air. It's a very nice touch. Tremendous world building. The one thing I will say again though is, look guys, you have such an advantage. Theme park designers of today have such an advantage. You know what sight lines are going to look like before they go out there. Back in the day, they draw up a plan and they go execute it, and then they have to look at it and go, man, I didn't realize you were going to see that thing from here. We got to find a way to cover that now. That's before computers. You have incredible technology at your fingertips. You're designing all this stuff in 3 dimensions on the computer. You can see it from every possible angle. How do you not realize you can see where the neck of the dragon ends and that there's just a sheet there? That kills the illusion. You've spent all this time and money to make me believe, especially a younger guest, make them believe that dragon is real and they are stepping into this movie they love to experience it for real, and you come that close to achieving the illusion, and then you're like, you know what? Yeah, you could see where the neck ends. You could see the sheet there. Whatever. Look, that had to have been visible during the design process, and even if it wasn't, you guys saw the finished product and knew how visible that was. Just go put another rock there. Come on. Go put another little rock or a fence, something. Put something there. You're so close to the finish line. You've done these incredible things. Finish the job. You're at 90%. Get to 100. What are you doing? And look, I know when I tell these stories, there always ends up being a reason. I'll hear from people sometime later who worked on the project. They'll be like, I totally agree with you there. We fought so hard to fix that thing. We couldn't get the money, or this happened or that happened. And I understand that. I get that. but I still think in the design process that probably could have been solved. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But either way, it doesn't matter. It doesn't actually matter. The product that's out in the park is what matters. The story as to why something didn't get done correctly is irrelevant in this industry. It is irrelevant. Your job is to create an immersive world for guests. And, it's different when you barely have a budget, but clearly there was some money here. And you built the whole animatronic. That had to be the most expensive part. No, this giant rock structure, the building itself, and the animatronic dragon head, that had to be the most expensive part. It was not nearly, wouldn't have been a large portion of the budget. It's just finishing that rock work to a point where you can't see the thing that ruins the illusion. That's what's so frustrating about that. Anyway, sorry about other attractions. Fyre Drill. Now, the other attractions in this land are things that exist in, what's the best way to put it? They're Six Flags and Cedar Point-esque, and some of them even Legoland-esque attractions. Fyre Drill is one of those, because these boat battle rides, they do exist in other theme parks, and not usually the major theme parks. This is an attraction type you see in some of those regional parks. I don't think it's not a bad ride system. It's very fun. Now, this one, unlike some of the other ones I've experienced, it's not really about shooting. It's not really about, I say, because it's not really the intention of the ride that you shoot people on the other boat. This one is about shooting targets along the sides of the boat, which is great. I will say that the targets, the stuff they built on this ride, really pretty. They're very nice props, beautifully painted. They look great. They look like they belong there. I love it. This has a reference to, there's a Spider-Man reference in this attraction. So what's not to like about it? And the thing that's not to like about it is this thing is mired in technical issues. This ride system has existed 100 times already. And so you've come up with a system where now the focus is going to be shooting targets. And they've created a game. And I will say, once you decide to create a game in a theme park ride, you had better make sure that game works, because people are waiting an hour, sometimes more, to play that game. And if you wait an hour to play a game and then the game doesn't have the payoff of winning or losing, or you feel like you were cheated because things didn't operate correctly, you're really going to PO some guests. And I've had that happen a lot on this thing. A lot, where it's just not registering that something was hit, or at the end, it doesn't even bother to declare a winner and a loser on either side of the boat. It's a mess in that regard. Now, these are problems that can be fixed with proper maintenance and care. You can get this thing to work correctly. And I think the one time I got it to work correctly, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. Do I think it's worth a very long wait? No. It's on the short side. Yeah, I don't know. It's solid. It's a solid attraction. But if it's going to be inconsistent in functioning, then the thing should not exist. Because it's so frustrating as a guest to be invited into the world to play and then be given all the rules and here's what you want to accomplish, and then you don't even get a chance to accomplish that. It's like, imagine if you wait hours to ride Mario Kart, you ride Mario Kart, and at the end, it's like, it doesn't declare a winner. Like, the screen's just black, and you're like, well, what happened? You're not going to leave going, man, that was an amazing ride. You're going to leave going it was fun, but then like the thing that was supposed to happen didn't happen. I don't understand. That's my main problem with Fyre Drill. I think the other problem with Fyre Drill is the instructions are not great. Clearly, the best way to flip the target, you have this water gun, and the best way to flip the targets is not really to hit them in the center. It's really to hit the top or the bottom so that the target spins and registers that you're hitting it. I don't think they make that super clear. Part of that not being super clear is the ride safety and explanation video is in a terrible spot that you can only see it really once they put you in a row to load. Or is it, I forget, is it actually, I think it's, you have to be further back to see it. It's actually, from what I remember, it's hard to see in several of the rows while you're waiting to board. You can hear them, but there's a visual component that you should be aware of. Either way, there needs to be more monitors in the queue showing this. It's psychotic. We're talking about like the cheapest possible thing, which is installing televisions in a queue. And it's like, they're like, oh, just the one at the load will be fine. Everyone will know what to do, how this works, and what's expected. And no one, I will say during the previews where it's the more hardcore guests, people, us theme park people figured it out. But once normal guests came in, you could see there was a bit of like, what am I supposed to do? How does this work? And they see the winner and loser thing at the end. They're like, I didn't even know we were competing. So the problems are not necessarily with the attraction itself. The problems are with it operating and in the explanation and setup to the attraction. Those are its largest issues. It's a fine ride. It's enjoyable. It's fun. It's hot in Orlando. It's nice to have an outdoor water ride where you get absolutely soaked. I think people will like it, but I think people won't like it if they don't get to play the game to its completion. Going down the left side of the land, there's also the Viking training camp, which is an outdoor playground intended for children. This is a good one. Now, I will say, is it one of the best playgrounds I've ever seen in a major theme park? I don't know. It's definitely very good. I just think in the 2000s, like late 90s, 2000s, we had an incredible run of children's playgrounds in these major theme parks. We had the Boneyard in Dinoland, USA. We had Camp Jurassic, which I still think, bar none, is the best one anyone's ever done. Camp Jurassic is literally, I think, the best thing at Islands of Adventure. You can fight me on it. I love it. It's magnificent. You think of Redwood Creek Challenge Trail at Disney California Adventure. These are top tier e-ticket playgrounds. If those are e-ticket playgrounds, I think this is, maybe the Boneyard's a D. Then this one's like a C. This is like a C ticket one. It's somewhere between a C and a D. It might be, maybe it's as good as the Boneyard. Maybe. I was surprised it wasn't more. It is, look, it's very standard playground in design. They're themed as wood posts, but really it's all the standard things. You look at Camp Jurassic, almost nothing about Camp Jurassic is standard. Everything in Camp Jurassic is custom. There's rock work and tunnels to get lost in, and there's a water fight area that is super themed. Even the shooters are super themed. There's the electrified fencing, and a flying little kid coaster goes through it, and there are jaw-dropping views of waterfalls. There is none of that picturesque beauty to this playground. It is undoubtedly, you'll take your kids here and they will have a tremendous time. It's very good, but it didn't elevate the art to the point that I think some of those 90s and 2000s playgrounds did. I think it lacks some of that because again, clearly the land where the budget was cut was this. They're like, oh, this one's just for little kids anyway, this land. Let's take some money from there. And I think that was very unfair. I think if you wanted this park to be, if the goal was to make a park that really was the crown jewel of the Universal crown, then you should have went for it. There are moments, like I've said in the early reviews, there are moments where they achieve that. They reach the highest heights Universal Creative has ever reached. And there are moments like this where it just seems like the potential was there and they didn't want to spend the money. And that makes me very sad. Speaking of not spending money, it's Dragon Racers Rally, right? Yeah, Dragon Racers Rally is a series of these two spinning rides, which sometimes you find in amusement parks and malls. I understand a park needs capacity. And very clearly, look, this park began with, the core of this park was, we know what we're doing for Super Nintendo World. This is already designed. You're getting, the Yoshi ride and Mario Kart and Donkey Kong, and those are all designed. For Harry Potter, we know, okay, we've got this Ministry ride already drawn up. We're going to do that. We'll add a show in this Le Cirque Arc Canoe thing. Okay, so now we're up to 5 attractions. We got 5 attractions. Okay. We'll do this Monsters Land. We have this cool idea for a Kook Arm ride. We have this show idea. Budget cut that. And more on that in the next chapter. And we'll build an off-the-shelf roller coaster instead. And then I think they got to Berk and they're like, okay, Untrainable Dragon, we're building, verbatim. Like that show is a huge success. That will be here. That's happening. What are we doing with the rest of this land? Okay, well, we need more for kids to do, and we need more capacity overall. We don't have a lot of attractions in this park. There are not a lot. So what do you do? Well, I guess, I don't know, what's a quick way to add on a couple more things that won't take many years to develop? And the answer was, okay, buy a boat battle ride and we'll theme it. Okay, buy the spinning flyer ride and we'll theme it. Build a children's playground. That's a lot of basic structure and we'll theme it. And that's kind of how all of this went. Now, is this a fun ride system? Yeah. I think the problem is people really want to spin this thing around. They really want to get on this thing and just have at it. And it's not easy to do. And the ride is so short that I think it's hard to get going. But I'm probably wrong, because I know that lady that is famous on social media for doing it at the mall, she gets it going real quick. But I mean, it's probably better than doing a straight up spinner ride, which we've seen a million times. Your Kang and Kodos, your Dumbo. We don't need another one of those. So if you're trying to avoid doing one of those, this is good. But that being said, this is a pretty decent height requirement. This is not for small children, this one. It's kind of a tween and up thrill ride, a thrill spinner. And I don't know what the park, I think this park needed more for small kids. And so I don't know that this was the right choice. Yeah, and I think also you could have avoided a lot of sightline problems with something smaller. Look, I'm not saying a standard spinner. I'm sure we could have found some other flat ride that was unique and interesting and fit this land really well. I don't know that this was the answer. I don't dislike it. I just don't think it helps the cause of this park. I like Epic Universe very much. Sometimes I love it. But I will say that the attraction menu for this park leaves a lot to be desired. It's not a plentiful assortment, and there are some head scratchers in that attraction assortment. This is one of those head scratchers. Now, there isn't really one of these in Orlando, to my knowledge. This ride system doesn't exist in Orlando. But it is, you just buy it from a company, and they themed it, but it's kind of an off-the-shelf thing. Yeah. I will say my favorite part of this attraction is the queue. The trophies for the competition that were sculpted and created for the queue are beautiful. I love them. They're great story elements, and they make tremendous, some of them are sold as merchandise, and they're very cute. That's great stuff. But also, pretty much in this land, a lot of outdoor queues with just tarps. And I don't know if you guys have been to Orlando before, but it gets hot a lot of the year, and you probably really don't want to wait for hours outside in a queue. So, this land is not going to be your favorite if you don't like standing outside in the Florida humidity. There's going to be a lot of it. This queue is more covered than Hiccups. Hiccups has some moments where it's very uncovered, and it's brutal. Thankfully, I haven't seen a lot of people wait in that uncovered part, but super uncovered part, but it's rough out there, man. It's rough. And that takes us to Hiccup's Wing Gliders. Hiccup's Wing Gliders is a family coaster, multiple launches. This is a very fun roller coaster. My problem again comes down to the fact that you wowed me when I came in through the main entrance, and the village is so beautiful, and there are just so many terrible, terrible, terrible sight lines from this thing. There's a part where you just see like cherry pickers parked backstage. You could see through the trees. There's too many places in Epic Universe where they thought a single line of trees would block the entire outside world. And what I mean by a single line of trees is not like they staggered them. No, like legitimately a tree line that is perfectly straight and one tree after another. And guys, I don't know if you know this, but tree branches, you can kind of see through them. At the point where the trees meet, there's going to be some separation from the trees to begin with, but also there's parts you could see through. And look, even if they grow in, undoubtedly with a single line of trees, there are going to be some spots where you could see through to like a parking lot and cherry pickers, and height-wise even sometimes you see things over the trees that you really shouldn't be seeing. You're supposed to be immersed in this world. You're in the world of Berk. The beginning of this ride, I like, once you turn that corner, when you fly or glide over the water and there's the burst of water, and it's amazing. It's amazing. I love that. That's the best part of the ride. And the track layout itself, it's a super fun family coaster. It's certainly better than Slinky Dog Dash. But guys, I'm going to tell you the same thing I said then. Is like, I'm not giving Universal a pass I didn't give Disney. Slinky Dog Dash does not have enough to see on it. The sightlines from it are horrendous. You mostly look at a shed on the second half of the ride. It's junk. I will say, this is a step above Slinky in some ways. I think personally, at least the giant toy box queue for Slinky offers adequate shade and is more thematic than most of the space for this. The load building and the little bit of queue in there for Hiccups is very good. It feels like a real thing from that movie. That's great. Love that. But there's too many parts on the ride where it just doesn't make any sense. Now, it's definitely, ride-wise, absolutely better than Slinky. It's a better track layout than Slinky, and the show scenes, particularly one show scene is fantastic, which is when Hiccup pushes down and sends you flying. The wings are coming to attach to the vehicle. They don't attach. He hits the button and you go. Great animatronic. Hiccup's fine, but Toothless looks wonderful. And of course, it's the same animatronic from the meet and greet, but it doesn't matter. And you go launching over the water. It's a great part. And then there's a part with, is it the Gronkle? Is that the name of those? I don't know. There's the Gronkle eggs that are hatching. There's that part. Now, that part's, there are a lot of things I do not like about this scene. A lot of things. Number one, the animation on the characters is abysmal. They're characters on sticks that just slowly rise up and down. It's not good. The show elements seem mistimed. Like I don't know, when you fall back in there, like if there's supposed to be an explosion, there's not a whole lot of blasting of smoke here. I would have blasted a lot more smoke on guests to really get across the fact that there's this explosion. That's the thing that's sending you flying forward. It's not really, other than on the ride's audio, the narration, we're not really establishing what happened. Like we valleyed, like we didn't make it, and we end up landing in story. The track's not supposed to be there. Now I understand how the ride has to work. It has to have a track to get you from point A to point B. But in story, we got fired across the lake, and we end, or ocean, I guess it's an island. We end up where the Gronkle nest is, and like we didn't make it out. So we've hit the ground. We're stuck there. In story, the thing that shoots us back into the air is the eggs exploding. But there's no explosion really. Also, in the midst of this, you can see like there's a corner of a building that's visible in the show scene, and they just covered it with ivy, but it's still clearly like a totally square building, and so you just have the corner of the building covered in ivy, and it takes you out of the moment. It takes you out of the show. And then in the end, they didn't know what to do. I do appreciate the problem solving that was, on the back half of the ride, we'll have these stands. The stands are it's supposed to be where the spectators watch the Dragon racers rally from. The rally is being watched from these stands, and you kind of blow through the underneath of these stands in the second half of the ride where the photo is. That works, that's fine. But again, you see Stardust Racers the whole time. It's not immersive. It's just not immersive. The trains are beautiful. The other thing that's not immersive, this is probably nitpicky. It's probably nitpicky, but anyone I've brought it up to, even the biggest fans of this ride, get a chuckle out of it, and that means we're on to something. So when we go to visit Hiccup and Toothless, where the launch sequence is, obviously we can hear them because we're there. How are we hearing them the rest of the ride? He's not with us. Radio technology does not exist in the time of this movie series. How is he speaking to us? So at the end, he's like, Toothless, thanks for flying. And Toothless licks him. He's like, Toothless. And I'm like, how are we hearing this? What magic technology in the story is allowing me to hear you? Like, how? It makes no sense whatsoever. It's nitpicky, but when you sit and think about it, you're like, oh, yeah, that doesn't make any sense, does it? In Slinky Dog Dash, when he speaks, we're inside him. I expect we could hear him from inside him. We're in the belly of the beast. We can hear him. But I don't know how Hiccup is talking to us. I have no idea. I don't know. And it's like, Toothless, he licked me. And you're just sitting there like, huh? How? Now, if they want to establish like where he was standing, if there was like that big horn they have out in the land that you like crank and the guy blows into, if you want to say he's like talking to us through like some amplifying horn or something, that would work. Sure. There were solutions. They're just not there. And I think story is so important. When you're creating immersive worlds, story is so important. You have to think of these little things. They do matter. I know people are going to go in the comments and say, oh, Tom Groh's nitpicking again, but nothing's ever good enough for him. I am just reiterating the things that people who created the most indelible attractions of all time told me. I try to learn the lessons of those who came before us in this industry. Those lessons are timeless. They don't fade away. Like technology may change, storytelling devices may change, but the need to pay attention to story and create fully immersive worlds and care about sightlines and care about the placement of attractions, those are timeless values that no matter how big a mega corporation becomes, are imperative to the design process and the execution and to the guest experience. As a guest, you want to be lost in these worlds. And there are places in Epic where you are lost in these worlds. Super Nintendo World, you are lost in that world when you go through that portal. The Wizarding World of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic, you are lost in that world when you go through that portal. There are certainly many times in Isle of Berk where you are lost in that world when you go through that portal. But there are also so many times where you make a wrong turn, look a certain way, or are on a ride and it takes you out of the story where you leave that world and go back to the world you came from because the immersion has been broken. I'm not saying every land and every attraction ever built are perfect, but there have been tremendous achievements in storytelling in major theme parks. And those standards must be held, especially in a brand new park built by a mega corporation in 2025. I don't give Disney a pass on it ever. I'm not giving Universal the pass either. If you've all declared they're on the same level, I'm holding them both to the same standards. And I expect both of them to be flawless because that's the expectation in the time we live in. That's my 2 cents on that. Yeah, all in all, I really like Isle of Berk. I know maybe it didn't sound like it, but the show is great. The immersion in the village, the live entertainment does it for me. The meet and greet with Hiccup and Toothless, the characters roaming. Gobber steals the show. Please go talk to Gobber. I think that's one of the best character experiences in any theme park in the world. I love so many of the thematic elements, the decor, those interactive pieces I talked about, the water fountain. There's so much great stuff to look at in this land. There's so much detail. It's dripping with detail. And that's why it's heartbreaking, is because I think the reason I'm so upset is because I think Isle of Berk had the potential to end up being my favorite land in that park, and it wasn't allowed to be. It was kept away from it. The money wasn't given to them to make that happen. And I'm sure there are creative people who wanted that, and that's what they drew up initially, and they weren't allowed to have it. And I understand that. I understand that, what we need to understand is there are tremendously talented creative people in this industry who go to work every day, but keep that in mind. They go to work. They work for a company. It is not their decision in the end. The company asks them to do something, and they do it because it's a job. They have a family and themselves to feed. They have to put a roof over their heads. And so it's a job. They have to, at the end of the day, they have to do what is asked of them. Whether it's what they wanted the project to be or not, they got to put their head down and make it happen according to the budget they've been given and the orders they've been given. And it's unfortunate because I think these corporations would be so much better served within reason. Again, I totally understand. Cuts will always happen in this industry, but those cuts should never come at the expense of the success of the project. Those cuts should make sense. And, that's the game we always play is budget. What can be accomplished in the budget And maybe, I don't know, maybe they should have played around with the budget a little more and tried to do something different and seal the world in a little more. And I mean, I totally understand the argument. I could see an executive sitting there saying, why does that matter? Spend the money on rides. Who cares about sightlines? But people do. People absolutely care about sightlines. And it's not just me and you. It's not just the fanboys and the fangirls. It's not the case. People in the real world put value in those things. When they feel like they're fully immersed in a place, they get lost in it. And that's when they're like, I got to come back and see this again. There's money to be made from immersion. And so I'd hate to see corners cut when we're so close to something so perfect. Look, there are projects where, you know, I'm not nearly as mad about DreamWorks Land at Universal Studios Florida because I understand what that project is. It was a relatively cheap thing to bring an existing kids land up to snuff for kids of a modern era. Totally understand that Fievel and Curious George and Woody Woodpecker did not speak to children of today. Something had to happen. They did what they could. Is it impressive? No. Is it good? I don't know. But nonetheless, something had to happen. The money was given and they went forward with it. It is what it is. The problem with Berk is very clearly there are moments where it shines at the highest level of the business, whether it's up against Pandora, the World of Avatar, Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, you know, Tokyo Disney Sea even, and up against the two, you know, stronger thematic portals in this park, which would be Nintendo and Ministry of Magic. There are moments where it's at that level, and so it's frustrating that clearly someone believed in it, but then it wasn't allowed to cross the finish line as the fully envisioned product that it was drawn to be. So what it was envisioned to be from the start is clearly not what made it off the drawing board and into the park. And that's sad. It makes me sad. But I think still, nonetheless, there are moments of great accomplishment in this particular land. I very much like it. But let me know how you like it in the comments. Tell me how I'm wrong in the comments. You guys always do. I love to have that conversation. And don't just write sightlines don't matter because you're wrong. Try to have a real conversation, please. Either way. We still have one more part in this series to do. That is going to be, I have saved, I think, the best for last. We have saved Darkmoor. The Dark Universe is coming. That'll be our final part of our review series on Epic Universe at Universal Orlando Resort. So stay tuned for that. I'm sorry again, we've had to wait so long. We've just had a crazy busy summer, myself included, here at WDWNT and Universal Parks News Today. And it's sometimes challenging in a week to find time to sit here for an hour and a half and not have someone knocking on my door or have to coordinate all the other people. There's a production team that works on this and making sure our editors have the proper time to make this video everything it can be. We just it's hard to find that time to do these things. And I'm so grateful with your patience that you all waited this long and still came back and watched this. I literally got stopped by someone at the airport a couple weeks ago, then they asked, where is the Dark Universe review? I can't wait to see the Dark Universe review. And I said, me too. I can't wait either. So we're going to keep doing these. I thank you for your patience. Please hit that like button and subscribe if you enjoyed this. And if you really want to support what we're doing, you could join the WDWNT Interglobe Society at patreon.com/WDWNT. But in review, I think it's a real solid land. I very much enjoy spending time there. I can't wait to go back and eat another mac and cheese cone and drink some mead and get soaked on Fyre Drill. Let's go. It'll be epic.